Hello everyone, this is Edgar for Team Lotus Box, and today I'm going to be going through an arena video with you. We're going to be playing some standard today with some Jund Sacrifice, a deck that I've had some experience with in the past, but it kind of fell on the wayside in the standard format a little bit. But I think it's actually going to be pretty well positioned going forward for at least the time being due to some recent metagame changes. But before we get into that, for those of you who haven't seen this deck before, it's basically just a mid-range attrition style deck that utilizes Culkin Familiar and Witch's Oven as an engine to create repeated life gain, repeated life loss for your opponent, and repeated sacrifice triggers, both just general sacrifice triggers and sacrificing food, which helps to enable your Trail of Crumbs, your Mayhem Devils, your Corvold, various card advantage sources that are present in the deck and can give you a commanding presence on the battlefield. Besides that, the deck is fairly normal. I made some changes to what used to be the more stock list, just because the way that the metagame is shifting right now, it kind of seems like the Azorius control decks are kind of getting a little bit pushed out by the new Teamer Clover deck, and Teamer Reclamation is actually on a pretty severe downtick in favor of the Jeskai Fire strategies. And obviously Mono Red is ever present. And this deck was kind of not the best when Teamer Rec was very popular. That matchup can be really tough. But with the Teamer Reclamation deck being a little bit of a pressed right now, sorry, I think it could be a good time to bring this back, especially with the Clover deck being a dominant force, because I think that that deck would struggle against the gun food strategy. So I made some changes to the deck, kind of in concession to that. You see the regular split of Corvold, one Bantu for kind of like a combo finisher, or redundant Corvold copies, and Agonizing Remorse was fairly popular, the full 4 copies, but I opted to trim some and trim some of the more flex slots to bring back Casualties of War in the main deck. It's a card that kind of fell out of favor in the main deck for this deck, but I think with Clover being popular, Jessica Fires being ever popular, this card could be quite primed to come back in full force. It's in any sort of mid-range mirror match. This card is second to none in terms of impact on the battlefield, and we saw that a lot in the Jund Food mirrors of previous formats. And but with Team Iraq being more popular for a period of time, it kind of fell on the wayside in favor of more discard spells. Um, Besides that, I'm playing 3 copies of Thrashing Bontodon. All those lists I was talking about earlier, enchantments are just kind of the key in this format right now. There's the obviously Fires of Invention. If you get paired against Wilderness Reclamation, it's relevant percentage points there. It's good in the mirror against Azorius control. Sometimes you can tab an Elspeth Conqueror's Death or some piece of enchantment removal. And even against Mono Red, it's a pretty important card to have. Just a 3/4 body is really good. It kind of blocks everything, and just if you just always leave 1 mana open for the activation, you kind of never really get blown out by Embercleave, which I think is a fairly important dynamic of that matchup. Going to the sideboard, playing more copies of Massacre Girl. Um, this is just a really powerful card in this engine, which is why you see the 1 copy in the main deck. It's just being able to find it off Trail of Crumbs, off all of your selection, it can be a really high impact in a lot of matchups, and being able to board up 2 additional copies against the mono red decks, any of the go wide decks is really important. Some redundant mid range cards. Lovestruck Beast I think is a really good card against the mono red aggro deck. Kind of one of the harder cards for them to beat. They have a lot of 1 toughness, 1 gruffs. So the 2 bodies is really relevant. And then some redundant discard spells. I opted for Duresses as opposed to Agonizing Remorse just for mana efficiency. The matchups where you want to board in an effect like this, stuff like Blue Eye Control, I think the mana efficiency is going to be more effective than hitting stuff like Dreamcrawler, especially with Dreamcrawler numbers being on the decline right now. But yeah, that's just about it. I think I'm probably going to be playing in the Mythic Arena Mythic Point Challenge this weekend, and I think I'm going to opt to play this. I think it's pretty good against what people are playing right now, and as long as you can dodge Team or Wreck, I kind of feel really good about this deck in the current metagame. But let's get to some games. Why don't we? We can play a couple matches with this deck. Junk Food has always been this kind of unique strategy in any standard metagame where it's been prevalent, where it's kind of really difficult for a lot of the decks to go over the top of, unless they go over the top really hard. But the decks that are going over the top really hard are kind of being pushed out by mono red and to some extent the clover decks. So here we have a 5 land hand with Oven and Devil. Oven Devil obviously a good engine, but not without Cat it's not that powerful. And this is like the less important synergy card than Trailochrome, so I think I'm gonna mulligan this hand. We have Cat Oven, some mana ramp. It's a good hand. Could use more lands. We're gonna get rid of one of our redundant 5-drop card advantage sources. Field Passage doesn't tell us too much. In general, I like to lead on Goose rather than putting either Oven or Cat into play. If I draw a Trail, I would rather get that engine online first, and just having access to developing my mana is going to be better going in the long run. Purrfect is an island, so it looks like to be one of Ram's strategies. Hopefully not Team or Wreck. We drew another Oven, so we're definitely going to play a Cat and at least one Oven. Question is, do we want to sacrifice this food? I'm going to play another Oven. Ooh. Poor sequencing on my part. I should have led on Oven first. But I will sacrifice the food now to play the other one. I think I was going to play it anyways. So I was going to get got by the Quench regardless. But I could have optimized that sequencing slightly better. Just going to sack the Cat now just so there's no shenanigans. If you sack it end step and then they Brazen Borrower, it's worse for you. It's not like I'm going to be blocking with it on this turn anyways, so. So opponent missed a line drop, so we're going to be able to capitalize on this just by making foods with Gilded Geese. Ooh, Wildborn Preserver. Did not expect that. Alright. So we don't get our point in, but that's fine. And unfortunately we cannot punish them for tapping out this turn. But if they make a similar play next turn, we're going to be able to slam Corvold. And Corvold is just by far one of the best cards against any of the blue-green decks. It's just very difficult for them to deal with. And the card advantage is obviously insane, and it's just very likely to kill your opponent in one shot. Alright, so our opponent has 3 mana open. I don't really like just jamming into this 3 mana. So I think I'm going to try to play it a little bit slower. Both of these are threats. So my opponent has a Bram board, which is kind of annoying. Both of these are threats in my opponent's eyes, I can assume. Corvold for obvious reasons, but Witch's Oven with them at such a low life total is going to be pretty scary for them. So I would rather wait until I could play both of them on the same turn, try to tax their mana a little bit more. And they don't have good attacks anyway, so we kind of got to dictate the pace here a little bit. Alright, so we drew the land. Question is, which one do we want to lead with? And I think it's the Oven, just because the Corvold is pretty incredibly likely to just end the game on its own. Just instantly resolved. So they could have another Quench, in which case jamming Corvold would be bad. I'm only 1 mana away from paying for Quench, so I think I don't mind waiting. They're on a pretty significant clock here already. Looks like they just have nothing. We're draining for 2 a turn, And we're making a food every turn with this goose as well, so it's not like we're losing out on our mana. In terms of micromanaging this deck has a lot of small decisions you have to make, or small optimizations that you make every turn in order to give you slightly more percentage points. And it's really important that you maximize any of those on any given turn. For instance, on this turn, I'm not bringing my cat back on my opponent's end step after using both of my ovens because I don't have any plans to attack with the cat, so there's no reason to bring it back on their end step. Because if I draw like a Trail of Crumbs or a Mayhem Double, then you get that one extra activation from the cat since it's already in your graveyard. So it's important to keep that in mind whether or not you're going to attack with the cat. Continuing to not present my Corvold into a possible quench. The Sparking Brontodon, highly impactful on this board, so I might as well present this. I can still make a clue, or a treasure rather, or food. Almost got there, took 3 tries. Alright, Spectral Sailor. Not scary at all. 2 counters on the Preserver doesn't matter too much either. It's because the cat blocks it. And eventually they are going to have to interact with either my ovens or my cat, and at that moment I will spring the Corvold on them. Getting rid of my passages here so that I can activate my goose. Extra food token is going to be relevant. Then I will do the cycle. You can play these patient long games with Jund Food, just because all this incidental life gain that you have is just so impactful. Alright, I'm gonna play this Massacre Girl, basically expecting it not to resolve. It will kill my opponent's entire board if it does, so I'll be fine with it resolving. But I'm kind of playing this as an expensive like duress for my opponent's counterspell so that I can resolve this Corvold later. So now the Cutthroat trades with the Brontodon as opposed to being straight checked, but we'll gladly take that trade if my opponent offers it. But as long as they continue to have no profitable attacks, they're on this oven ticking time bomb. They drew their 4th land, which means they're representing Ambusher now. And that makes it much more likely that I'm going to just cast this Corvold regardless of what I draw. Okay, my opponent gave up. What I was going to say is that it's important to be aware of what your opponent can do if you don't force him to cast a counterspell, and Ambusher is a type of card that might punish my passive play. And for that reason, I would, even if I didn't draw a land, I was probably going to cast Corvold to just force my opponent to keep using their mana and not develop their board instead, while my cat continues to drain them out. So we're playing against a classic Simic Flash strategy, not one I've played against for a while, but Duress is going to be good. Noxious Grass is going to be really powerful. The dynamic of this matchup is usually just not giving them an opportunity to establish board control. Because at any point when you give them that opportunity, they're just going to snowball that advantage, and you're not going to be able to profitably turn the corner in any way, unless they run out of counter magic or you're able to squeeze something high impact through. So we want to keep our curve as low as possible, and really just interact with what they're doing or present multiple threats at the same time. So Casualties of War a very bad card in this matchup. We're boarding in Duresses, we're boarding in Noxious Grass. It tags all of their high impact threats. It hits their Night Pack Ambushers, and it hits their Nisses if they still play that as well. And I'm going to board in Disfigures since they did show me Cutthroat as well. The Bantu is probably not necessary. Again, you want to keep your curve as low as possible. And Massacre Girl, the first copy is like probably fine, although not super necessary. I think I'm going to opt to not have it. There can be a lot of boards where it won't actually be that high impact. My opponent did show me Spectral Sailor, which is a 1 toughness creature that can start the Massacre Girl chain, but that might not always be in play, and if instead they're just on ambushers, and I don't have my own Cauldron Familiar in order to repeatedly trigger the Massacre Girl, then it's not going to be that effective. And we need to board out one more card. Often you can shave Cauldron Familiar. Ooh, I ran out of time sideboarding. That's not good. I was gonna say that you can shave Cauldron Familiar, just because the second copy is often redundant. But we're just going into this game with no sideboard instead, and then we can make all those changes for game 3 if it comes to that. Gonna keep this hand. Has one of the cards that I was going to board out, which is the perfect punish, honestly. But even the 6-card hand ignoring this one card is actually fairly powerful. So, gonna get my oven into play while I can. Frequently, in some matchups, you'll try to develop your mana. Like if your mana is awkward, you would rather develop your mana than play your oven early. So like I might fetch a mountain with his Fable Passage to guarantee this on turn 3. But in this matchup, getting this into play is super, super important. Alright, so my opponent has Growth Spiral. I wasn't actually sure if they were going to have that because they showed us the Cutthroat. Usually that occupies similar space. So our opponent has a clunky hand, but a very difficult hand to beat if my opponent manages to draw some lands. I'm going to take one of the 4-drops just because they're stuck on 3, so they need 2 lands to cast the other threads, and I don't want them to be able to go threat into threat if they hit. Looks like they miss, so I'm going to jam Mayhem Double. And they don't have a counterspell either, which is good. Alright, so they hit this time. Drew another Agonizing Remorse. We're going to be able to keep pace with the Ambusher for a little bit, but after a while it's just going to be too much for us to handle. Ooh. So how do we win if they draw a land? It's going to be difficult, but this text doesn't matter too much. So do I want to have to deal with a 4/5 flyer, or do I want to have to deal with the second copy of Nissa? And I think it's actually the second copy of Nissa, just because the way my hand is situated, I really need to deal with the first copy. I can't just let them keep making lands into 3/3s. So once I do that, I'm going to be happy that the second copy is missing from their hand. Alright, so they hit, which is bad for me. I need to draw something good this turn, because there's no guarantee that the Casualties of War the following turn is going to be enough to bring me back into this game. Alright, so I'm going to play Fabled Passage here, and what that's going to allow me to do is, in combination with the other Fabled Passage next turn, I might be able to profitably do something with 2 triggers, 2 Mayhem Double triggers, maybe even sack the Witch's Oven to deal a 3rd damage, kill a land perhaps, something like that. But this Thrix is going to be coming down, and oh, my left field is actually I'm just dead. How did my left field get so low? I guess I shocked myself a couple times. Yeah, so I'm going to block the Ambusher. I'm going to ping it. Another reason to play that Fabled Passage on the previous turn. But I'm not sure that I really have any outs. Because I'm going to 1 here. If it wasn't for this Thrix, I would be able to actually deal with this board. I could kill a creature, a land, and a planeswalker with the casualties. But this Thrix is going to be the nail. Creature, land, planeswalker. Maybe they won't flash it in. They flashed it in. Alright. So looks like he's sideboard for this third game. Our opponent seems to have boarded more big stuff. I'm not sure if that is just the spells that they happen to draw that game, or if that is like their sideboard plan, because originally I was going to bring in these disfigures. But I'm starting to think that maybe they're not as effective. This is how I was going to sideboard. Do we want something instead of these disfigures, though? I think that it's pretty overwhelmingly likely that they have kept in one of the Preserver or the Cutthroat. I find it pretty unlikely that they were capable of boarding them both out. But maybe we hedge with only one copy of Disfigure and we keep in the 4th cat. I think I like that. Alright, let's give that a shot. Alright. Decent hand. I'm not gonna play the cat on turn 1. I don't think it's worth shocking myself to do that. Because I'm not the beat down in this matchup, so getting in an extra couple points of damage is not going to be game ending by any means. So they have another expensive hand. I don't really care about this Aether Gust too much. I think I want to take one of their high impact spells and then take the other one the next turn, and I think I actually want to take the Thrix. 4/5 flyer is just kind of pretty difficult for me to deal with, since part of my game plan is just dealing with the ground. I don't want to play Bronton on this turn because they kind of have a profitable Aether Gust turn. Even though that exchange is likely to happen at some point, I would rather do it when it's more awkward for them. And I still don't think playing this cat is worth 2 points of damage. Cat will come down next turn. Alright, so I'm going to play a Brontodon here. Fine with this Aether Gust exchange. That is something they want to do. It's going to open up the door for a future Trellicrums, a future Corvold, something like that. And they drew Sinister Sabotage, so honestly, very, very okay with that. Them just using a powerful hard counter is okay with me. And they put a Krasis in the graveyard. Another reason to take this Thrix, by the way, with the Agonizing Remorse is because the Krasis is much more awkward for them to play with. You see here they have to tap out with counter magic in hand in order to stick that, and now I get to stick a couple threats while their shields are down. So I don't mind my position here. Our opponent has 5 cards in hand, obviously, so they're ahead on that front. But the Trail of Crumbs was a really good pickup on that turn, and if I find an oven, I think I'm going to be decidedly ahead. Looks like they're hovering over my food token. A copy of Brazen Borrower would be annoying if they just got my food token. Be quite unfortunate. Kind of stifle my forward progress a little bit. And yeah, that's exactly what they have. So unfortunate. They also get to develop another flying threat this turn. But we drew Murderous Rider, which is a pretty good draw. Question is, do I want to deal with this Brazen Borrower? So right now they have 5 points and I have 4 points, and they have the first attack, so they're winning the race right now. So I think I need to do this, not give them the opportunity to interact with that at all, and then probably play my 2/3 next turn. It's going to be unfortunate if they have Nissa or Ambusher as a follow-up, but as it sits, I wasn't beating the board, and I know they have a Gust in hand to further swing the race in their favor, so I don't think that's a winning proposition to just let that sit and play. Alright, so I'm gonna play this Rider pre-combat, and the reason I'm doing a pre-combat is because they're kind of representing the Ambusher, and I'm not positive I actually want to attack. So I'm just gonna not attack. And I'm gonna play my land in case they draw Castle Locked Away. If they were to counter this pre-combat, then that would give me an opportunity to attack since their mana would be tapped, assuming they tapped at least 3 of it. But it looks like they didn't have Ambusher that turn, so I'll be much more likely to attack next turn. If they just didn't play it that turn and they're just sandbagging it, I would be shocked, honestly. But that will likely get me. Of course, they could have drawn it this turn. Ooh, that's an interesting one to bounce. So I could kill this. Then I need to shock myself in order to cast this, which I don't think is worth it. And also, if I crack this Fabled Passage, they have an opportunity to gust one of my green cards, and then I can't draw it again the next turn. So I think I'm just gonna play this tapped and say go and aim to kill the Brazen Borrower and recast this on the following turn. Kind of a similar spot to where we were last time. Surprised to see them bounce that, but perhaps they don't think they can win the race otherwise. Oh, and they just have a negate, so that makes a lot of sense. Their last card was negate. Okay, so I'm in a rough spot. I'm going to be attacked for half my life total here, and they have an Aether Gust. So I think I need to draw basically just Oven, or I die. And I missed. And the Green Ambusher. Alright. So we lost that game. We kind of fumbled a bit by not sideboarding for game 2. Perhaps cost us the match. But let's just hop into another one. Try to redeem ourselves a little bit there. Interesting games for sure. I think I like how we played that game 3. We could have, instead of the turn they tapped out for Hydroid Krasis, we played a Brontodon and a Trail of Mysteries, or a Trail of Crumbs rather. And instead of doing that, instead of playing the Brontodon, we could have instead just cracked the food token from the Trail of Crumbs and activated the Trail. That would have prevented our opponent from being able to Brazen Bar our food token, and also just given us some more velocity, giving us an opportunity to find Oven better. So perhaps the line we should have taken instead, because they had the opportunity if they wanted to just gust the Brontodon on their turn. So we kind of just gave them the spot where they just got like the best of both worlds, right? They could gust our Brontodon if they wanted to, but if they don't want to, they also can not do it and do something else instead, which in this case was a pretty devastating Brazen Borrower. So maybe a misstep there. Our opening hand for this game is pretty good though. Got 2 ovens and a cat, basically a lot more than you can ask for in an opening hand. And it looks like we're playing against the Clover deck, where these Casualties of War are hopefully going to shine. Kind of the reason I wanted to put them back into the main deck. Just being able to nab a Clover, nab one of their 5/5s, really just swing the battlefield in your favor. So again, I'm not going to bring back this cat. No prospect for attacking because of the Love Struck Beast and even the 1/1. So just going to let the little kitty kill. Gonna take Fae of Wishes over Borrower, I believe. Yes. Probably a lot of scary things they can Fae for. They have a lot of blue-green lands. So maybe they're not the Clover deck, because usually the Clover deck is Teamer, if I'm correct. But maybe a slightly different build. Third Oven, obviously fantastic. Their opponent's on a 6-turn clock now. That is very difficult for them to interact with. A lot of good draws in my deck too. A Trail of Crumbs would probably just lock up the game on the spot. A Mayhem Devil as well. Even just a Black Source is kind of important because one way that our opponent could break this up is using Brazen Borrower on my 1 food token. And I'm actually going to play around that by not activating this final oven, which we'll see in just a second here. So you want to make sure that they can never break up your synergy using this Brazen Borrower, especially when it's face up. You just know it's there. So I can activate this one pretty safely. They're just going to bounce the oven. Alright, so it's fine. If they didn't do that, so let's say they didn't do that, and then I brought back the cat, and then sacked it again to this oven, and then brought it back again. Now with the cat sitting in play, I guess they could bounce a cat. So I guess they really just didn't have any good way to break that up, but you want to be careful nonetheless to make sure that they can't interact profitably. Sometimes you can put yourself in a position where they can bounce your food token, and then things get awkward. But we drew Mayhem Devil, so further increasing the clock. I can even ping off this token to prevent my opponent from attacking with Love Struck Beast if that's something I choose to do. Which I will. Just in case there's any shenanigans. Opponent also can't develop this Brazen Borrower to try to clip us in the air a little bit. And we can continue the onslaught. Now twice as fast, or 3 times as fast, going at their face. Not sure what kind of ways they have to break this up in the first game. Again, assuming they are the Teamer Clover deck, which looks like they might not be actually. But I mean, Fae of Wishes is definitely they definitely have a solution in their sideboard, so which is why I opted to get rid of the Fae of Wishes, just in case they have like a planar cleansing type card or something like that. No reason to bring this back. See, by not bringing this back on the end step, now I get 1 additional trigger off this Mayhem Devil. Alright. And I think our opponent was just dead that turn, so. Pretty decisive game there. Not positive how I want to sideboard, again, because we don't really know. They have Fae of Wishes, so I just have to assume that they're playing Lucky Clover in some aspect. Even if they're not Teamer, they're going to be some blue-green Lucky Clover deck, which is a good enough reason to have this 4th copy of Casualties of War, I think. Massacre Girl can clean up pretty big boards. I think it's pretty good to have the 1 copy. I don't think I want additional copies, but just being able to dig to the 1 can help to clean up a lot of board states that you otherwise won't be able to beat. And I feel pretty okay cutting 1 copy of Cat in this matchup. I don't think they're going to be interacting with this too much, and they're probably going to be boarding in stuff like Return to Nature to target our ovens and Trail of Crumbs, and That's normally not that devastating of a dynamic, but it can be more devastating if you get too many of these and are too reliant on synergy, and then they just break it up. Duress, unfortunately, not that powerful. A lot of their spells are actually creatures in their hand, so I think just very minimal sideboarding in this matchup. Nothing else I really want access to. So we'll just try that out. Alright, fantastic hand. Goose into Trail is basically this deck's nut draw. It just lets you start churning immediately. Gives you an engine for your trail as well. So you never run out of food. And they play a Stomping Ground, so they are a teamer. They just happen to draw a bunch of blue-green lands in game 1, which is what I thought might be the case. And they just have a Bone Crusher Giant for my Goose. Rude. Gonna get a trail into play rather than the cat. Again, not the beatdown. You find yourself not the beatdown in most matchups. And you frequently take plays like this that just maximize card advantage rather than damage output, and the damage usually just comes later. Double Edgewall Innkeeper. Would really like to find a Mayhem Devil. I'm gonna play my Blood Crypt here. Gonna play Swamp. Probably would have been better. This has the upside where I'm gonna trail this turn, and if I trail into one of Mayhem Devil or Fabled Passage and then draw the other one for turn, then I'm gonna get paid off by having developed a red source already. I could have Murderous Ridered one of these Innkeepers, but I think I would rather try to find something higher impact. I want to find either an Oven or a Devil, basically. And there's the Devil. And there's the Oven. Wow, okay, so gonna play the Cauldron Familiar. I'm not gonna expose this Devil until I can really deal some damage with it. I'll play a Stomping Ground. Yeah, I'm not going to expose this until I can really deal some damage with it. If I play it this turn and they just have a removal spell, I'm not going to be able to. I'm going to kill one Innkeeper, where if I just wait one turn, assuming they can't interact with it in my hand in any meaningful way or interact with my Oven, I'm going to be able to destroy their board next turn. Alright, Beanstalker Giant is good for me. It means they're not using their turn to interact with what I'm have going on, which is exactly what I wanted. They have a forest follow-up, so they could have a disenchant here, which would be really annoying. I have to be careful not to get my Cauldron Familiar returned to Natured. They could return to Natured the Oven. That's less devastating because I have more copies of Oven, so I always want to keep a redundant food so they can't exile my Familiar from their graveyard. Alright, happy with a castle here. Looks like they have something. Looks like they're deciding what they want to kill. Ooh, this might have been oh no, they don't have red mana open. So they can't exile my Familiar. Alright. So I'll play a castle. And I'll cast Mayhem Devil and see what they want to do. I have Aether Gust. They have Aether Gust. Alright. So that's the Devil's definitely going on top. The question, what I'm thinking about right now is whether I want to do a Trail of Crumbs cycle before this resolves, so that I'm not forced to take the Devil off the Trail of Crumbs. The downside of that is that I don't get to make this block for free, like block sack. But if I hit an Oven, it's really good. If I hit a Goose, it's really good. So I think I will. I think my life total is strong enough that I don't mind making this play. And worst case scenario, I can just still chump block since I have a redundant food. That will open me up to return to nature on my cat. So I might not make that play, but it is a play that is still open to me. So we didn't hit, but our devil is sitting snugly on top, ready to come back down next turn. If this Mayhem Devil ever hits play, there's going to be some damage done. All these innkeepers are going to die. Hopefully they just spend this turn. Looks like they're casting a giant, and then they're going to try to draw onto a land. It's a Lovestruck Beast. Going to try to draw onto a land, and perhaps already has another Aether Gust, or trying to draw into another Aether Gust. And they don't have it yet. And I'm just going to take this damage. Don't want to expose my cat at all, and I'm pretty confident that my life total is high enough in order to make this play. They have another land. Oh, and the clover. Alright. Good, good, good. So I'm going to play... Yeah, I'm going to play double to start. And I'm going to start mowing down their dudes. I want to hit another... I'm going to do some of this stuff main phase because I want to get rid of these innkeepers. And also I want to maybe hit another oven. So I'm gonna put full control on here, and the reason I'm doing that is because you can hold priority. You can sack a food to bring the cat back, ping something, trail, and then before the cat comes back, you have the opportunity to sack another food. So I just want to leave that opportunity open to me. Kill another innkeeper. And we hit Massacre Girl, which I'm not interested in, but Fabled Passage might be able to deal some damage here, so I'm going to take that. And do we want to do the trick? So Fabled Passage can kill this innkeeper. So I think I would rather have the familiar in play to block with, and then I can bring it back again. No, maybe that's bad actually. Because I can always just play trail to start the chain again. I have 2 trails. So I'm going to do this, because just hitting another oven is just so much upside that I really want to have the opportunity to do that. And there we go. Take off full control now. We're not utilizing the ping from this yet, so I'm just going to play a swamp and preserve that ping for later. I'm in a pretty good board state here. We want to find a Brontodon or a Casualties of War to deal with this Lucky Clover, just because that's a way that our opponent can crawl back into this. Like if they find two disenchants here, it could be a little bit annoying. Oh, they found a Spyglass. So we really need to find a Thrashing Brontodon now. And escape to the wilds. Alright. So they're casting that, so I'm definitely going to sack this, because we're probably going to name Oven, so I want to get that sack out of the way. Does pinging this do anything? It does, so I'm gonna ping this. But that prevents the attack, because I can threaten to bring cat back, ping it again, and block it. So it's kind of like it's gaining me 4 life. Our opponent could also name Cauldron Familiar with the Sorcerer's Spyglass, but it's not really good for me to bring this back preemptively. Alright, and that is what they did. What what I was saying is it's not good for me to bring that back preemptively because I'm not getting any value out of that. And if they decide to name oven instead, I would rather have this set up to continue my trail cycle. So we're gonna be slow trailing now instead of fast trailing. I have to sack these clues the manual way. Remorse, not a bad draw. Can deal with this escape to the wilds. We do have to be careful not to take too much damage. Now our life total is slightly more under distress than it was last turn. So Remorse costs 2 mana. We want to leave ourselves the opportunity to Rider, which costs 3. And then Trail. So I think I'm just going to I'm going to start off by playing the Remorse. Innkeeper doesn't matter. I think I'm just going to take the Escape to the Wilds. It's just the highest impact card. And then I'm going to play a Trail, and I'm going to play a Fabled Passage. Leave myself the opportunity to Murderous Rider if I want to. If not, I will just Trail instead on end step and try to find a Brontodon. If they crack their Fabled Passage, yeah, so they cracked their Fabled Passage, so I gotta deal 3 damage to this, or yeah, deal 1 damage 3 times, because I gotta crack my Fabled Passage now, and then crack a food token. Which I think is better than just leaving up Murderous Rider, because they know I have it, and I can deal with that Edgewall Innkeeper on my turn. I'm not too worried. Corvold's a good find here as well. Just continues to snowball our advantage. And our opponent can find a land. So they're playing another Clover here, so they can bounce 3 things with Brazen Borer. Which isn't like the scariest thing in the world. They're targeting the Devil with the original, so I could fizzle the Brazen Borer, notably. Let's see what they copy or target with this one. So they're targeting my food token. Okay, don't care about that. And this one they're targeting one of the ovens. So do I want to sack my Devil to fizzle the Brazen Borer? I think that is a pretty easy no. The Devil's just going to be very powerful later. I don't mind if they draw a card off this Edgewall Innkeeper, and I'm going to be able to ping down the Brazen Borer fairly easily. Playing Edgewall, presumably getting it 5 points of damage, and drawing a card off Fae of Wishes being cast. Very manageable. Okay, so my first inclination was to just play Devil and Corvold this turn. Sack a permanent, draw a card, kill the Edgewall Innkeeper, leave up Oven. Alternatively, I could play 2 Devils and an Oven, but without anything profitable to sack, I don't think that's very effective. I do need to be wary of being burnt out. But they need to play another 1/1 to attack with this beast and deal with my Corvold. So I think that play is fine, even though I'm going to be going to 8 off their Shockland. And I'm definitely going to sack a redundant trail here. I have a 3rd copy in my hand, and I'm not even close to having enough mana to just do all of that stuff every turn. And without like a Goose, and with this Cauldron Familiar being Spyglass, it's a very mana intensive engine, especially when you have several copies of them. Alright, so our opponent has another Brazen Borrower. It's a little unfortunate. They're bouncing Corvold. The original is bouncing the Oven. They're bouncing Corvold, and presumably they're going to bounce the Devil as well. Could sack Corvold to get 2 clues, draw a card, and ping something. I don't think that's worth it. Alright, this seems fine to me. Unless they have another 1/1, they don't really get in that much damage here. But they are starting to snowball a little bit, which is a little scary. Alright, we're only taking 1. That is a good sign. And they're shocking themselves. So they want to cast a Brazen Borrower, presumably. Drew another cat. So that's an easy sack to the Witch's Oven. It's kind of like a free Fork Bolt. But do we have a better line this turn? I definitely want to start off by playing a Devil, because any of my good lines involves this, and I want to see how they react to this. They let it resolve. So I think this turn I want to play a Devil, an Oven, and a Familiar. That's going to set up better for Corvold next turn, and kind of just give me the least opportunity to get snowballed too hard here, I think. Because the Familiar can threaten to block the Beast if they manage to turn that on, which is relevant. And if they interact with this Oven, chose to sequence this way so that if they interact with the Oven, I can shock to play the other one. But if they don't interact in any way, I think I'm going to just play this line tapped, because I don't believe that I'm going to sack 2 things. Alright, so that's fine. That's gonna get shot out of the sky. At any point, Thrashing Brontodon is still going to be very, very deadly for my opponent. I'm definitely going to sack this. I deal 1 damage to the Borrower and 1 damage to them. They are at 11 as well, so I might just be able to like naturally drain them out. Not really like a line of play that I'm playing towards at this stage, just because devoting too many resources to that could cause me to fall further behind. But it is something to keep in mind, especially with 2 Devils now. And they're Fang 3 times. Alright, that's scary. Not what I wanted to see. Fling. Alright. Am I just dead? Do you have an expansion explosion as well? Storm's Wrath is fine. So, a little punish for dealing 1 to the face. I did not think about Storm's Wrath. Had I would have dealt 1 damage to the Beast. But it's still doing okay. So this returns 2 cards from your graveyard to your hand. So they have a Fae and a Bone Crusher. Oh, Bone Crusher just kills me. So I have to be careful. Oh, it doesn't kill me yet. I go to 1, but I do need to be careful about that. I think I start this turn by cracking a food token. No. I should play Corvold and sack the food token. No. Yep. Play Corvold, sack the food token. Yep, this is the line. You want to draw the card off Corvold first. And I whiffed off Brontodon, so pay 1. I whiffed again, so another Trail. I'm just going to play Trail, and I'm going to play an untapped land, give myself the opportunity to gain 3 life if I need to. Hope to not get flinged to death, although I might. So I could have instead of doing this, just cracked this, giving me 3 additional life, but then I'm not developing the Corvold, so it's kind of like I'm like less likely to die this turn, but then I might also just be less likely to win the game, because I'm kind of spending the turn doing nothing more often. All right, that is a good play for me. I'm very much not scared of that. It's not big enough to kill me with Fling. I will not sack this end step, because then they can respond with the Fling. Do I have any way to kill my opponent here? I can play a Trail. And this is going to allow me to sack a food token and still have a backup food token in case they try to fling my face in response. I will do that. Give me a life buffer. Still looking for a Brontodon. And we found one. So I'm going to decline these. I don't need them anymore. And that 3 life went off, so not worried about dying now as much. And also, oh, they're gusting that. Okay. That's fine. So our opponent's not dead, but I don't actually feel like I need this Corvold anymore, so I'm just going to sack it to the oven. No, I'm just going to put it on top. It's going to be good later. So I'm going to do this. I do this on this. And I don't really need to Trail, and I just want to kind of maximize life points. So I'm going to do, should bring back one of these now. Okay. Hopefully don't die here. I could, especially with that Fling. They have like a 1/1. Yeah, I might just be dead here. I couldn't just Murderous Rider the giant though. I didn't have enough mana. Oh, they're just gonna buy back the Fling. Okay. 6, 7, 8, 9. That's exactly lethal. So I could have just Murderous Ridered this instead. But then I have 2 less ovens in play. Just need 1 more point of life. I suppose a little punish for a little punish for that turn where I played Corvold and sacked a food instead of just sacking the food to itself. Close game. Close game. Alright, game 3. Still don't really feel like I want to rest. It hits Clover, but really not much else. I think I like how I'm sideboarded, so I'm just gonna keep that as is. So this hand is close, I think. Double Goose on the play is pretty good, but my mana is going to be really awkward if I don't draw land in a couple turns, and if they have Bone Crusher Giant, it's going to be really annoying, so I think I'm going to mulligan. Alright, this hand is also fine. This hand needs mana, but it has high potential, so I'm going to keep it. Alright, immediately drew Trail. It's a good draw. If we draw a black source, would be ideal, and then hopefully we can trail into a cat after the fact. Our opponent has Clover, and we drew a black source. Even if we just hit a green source, we can deal with the Clover with the Brontodon, which would be nice. Oh, they don't have another land. So priority 1 is definitely Cauldron Familiar. That would be the best thing to hit. Corval, not the best, but we'll take it. And we hit another land, which isn't the worst. So if we can draw a 5th land before our opponent can get anything going, and just slam this Corvold, we're going to be in a dominating position. Opponent has 2 Beanstalks, so I can't pinch them on that. If they draw any land, their mana is going to be fully developed. So, yeah, they're going to go from 3 lands to 6 lands. So what's the scariest card, assuming they do that? It's probably the Great Henge. So I'm just going to take that. I could take a Beanstalk, and then if I got another Remorse, it's really good for me. Alright, 3 1/1s is manageable. We need to draw a land pretty quickly, though. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to play Corvold here, and now the question of what to sack. I don't want to sack a land because I want to be able to casualties next turn. So it's an Oven or a Trail. I think it's just one of the ovens. Alright. Alright, our opponent drew a land. It's not good for us, because now they get to go Giant into Bone Crusher. Kill our Corvold. And then they even have another Bone Crusher for our next Corvold, so I think it's going to be really hard for us to win now. Really, really hard for us to win now. Oh yeah, of course. Wow. What an engine. The fact that they had double Beanstalk, double Bone Crusher meant I couldn't pinch them on either of those, which is why I took the Great Henge. Just needed to draw land 1 turn earlier, have them whiff 1 turn more. I mean, it's not like can't really ask for our opponent also missed land drops, so. Alright, cat is decent. Oh, they're just gusting. Alright. We have another Corvold, so I'm definitely just gonna sack this for a card and a couple food tokens. Drew another oven, so We might be able to get something going. They're going to be able to Fey, though. And Fey a lot. So the question is, do I play Corvold, or do I just play Cat in a couple ovens and start going? I think it's that one. Start attacking the life total. Maybe try to do something here. Next turn we're gonna have a good Corvold turn. We can maybe get the Corvold out of Bone Crusher range, just because we have so many sacks. We can put something like 8 counters on it. But this Fae of Wishes is going to find something good. I can only assume. Right, the Spyglass. We do have this Thrashing Brontodon, so we can deal with that. Unless they have a second Spyglass or something to that effect. Is that? Oh, Mystic Repeal, right? And Chandra. So they're gonna Spyglass the oven and repeal the trail. It's gonna cut off most of my engine. Sack the cat here. Had I shocked myself, I would have been able to get an extra card off this trail. Perhaps a misstep there. We'll definitely take Fable Passage here. It's my second green source for this Brontodon. Okay, so they're gonna name Oven, I assume, or Cat. Virtually the same thing. Alright. They have Bone Crusher mana still. Fortunately, our mana is a little bit awkward. We only have these 2 green sources, so we can't do anything besides play Brontodon. I could have played Corvold and Goose instead, but I think that's pretty significantly worse. I just have to make sure that I can do this before they draw a way to interact with it. I'm gonna Bone Crush my face. Yes. I will allow it. I meant to kill this on my turn. I'm not sure it's gonna matter too much. It'll matter if they have a Scorch with Dragonfire, I suppose. And let's see what they hit. So they hit a couple lands, another Escape, a Fae, and a Bone Crusher. Gonna be pretty hard to beat. I think this deck plays like 12 basic lands, so they can Beanstalk again if they want to. I'm trying to get in some chippy points. Prevent one of those by doing some block sack action. I just caught with my pants down. I'm just dead. I don't think so. It's a lot of burn. It might be. 6. I can crack a food. I might be dead here. That lucky clover card is mighty powerful. Ooh, can't let that resolve. Sack that. Bring this back. Go to 1. I go block. Sack. I'm exactly dead. No, I'm good. I'm good. I go to 1. I draw a Mayhem Devil. I think my opponent's dead. That would be nice. I wouldn't mind if that happened. So you're telling me there's a chance, huh? They got 1 card I don't know about. They can play a 1/3 blocker, but I'm not sure. I don't think that matters. Nope, I still got lethal anyways. With a devil. Alright. We haven't got a devil yet this game, right? Alright, I like my chances here. Well, I can still Corvold into it. I don't want to tap that way. I'm just going to tap all my green mana and know what I want to draw into. Sack the kitty. Draw a card. Nope. Still nope. Do need to find it earlier rather than later in these activations. Still nope. Or else I won't have enough food. Ooh, I think that was just early enough. 1, 2, yep, we got it. Wow, what an insane game. So this is 2. This does 1 more. And then we got 2 more. Wow, so we found it just early enough. That's crazy. But we managed to get there. Mayhem Devil and Corvold showing their power. But that, I mean, impressive showing from the Clover deck. They missed their 3rd land drop for what was it, like 3 turns, and they still managed to make it a very scary game for us. Missed a couple land drops too, but it wasn't nearly as devastating. But yeah, I mean, that was Grunt Food. I don't always expect that matchup to look as lopsided in every game. I think that matchup is fairly close, but I do like the changes that I made conscious of that matchup, and I feel like that this is going to be a good choice going into this weekend, and I would recommend it to anyone who's planning to play the Mythic Point Challenge or just grinding the ladder even, just trying to hit the top 1200 Mythic by the end of the month, going into the last stretch of it. But yep, that's going to be it from me. If you have any questions, feel free to ping me in the Lotus Box Discord. I'll be more than happy to answer any of those. And I look forward to talking to all of you soon. Thanks for watching.